Hey guys, Megan Lynn here, Spiritual Empress. What's up? Happy weekend, end of the week. I'm sorry I haven't been on, and I know I keep saying this over and over again. Y'all, you don't understand when you have so many undefined centers how electrical stuff always happens to you. So I've had issues with my iPhone for the last week and a half, so I haven't been able to record. I haven't been able to do anything. So this is not being lazy, anything like that. I just wasn't able to physically do it. And thank you, Apple. Thank you so much for all the help, because basically I had to troubleshoot my own problems, and I've been on hold with them. They couldn't figure out what was wrong. And then I took it in the Apple store twice. Today I ended up doing a back end fix myself. So thank you. Thank you, Apple. And thank you for the fact that I've had my 7. Y'all, I keep a phone forever. And all my Aquarius friends are kind of the same way, in the way that we take care of our shit, okay? We don't need to replace stuff if it's not necessary. Some of them are into the tech gadgets and things like that, but if I don't have to spend money, I won't. So iPhones are trash, okay, you guys? They're trash. You have to literally, once you've paid off that iPhone, I had mine for almost 4 years. Once you pay it off, the battery stops working. The actual computer component to the iPhone stops working. So I had to go buy an 11. So now I have an 11. Now I can record. My storage was fine on the other one, but for some reason it just stopped working. So anyway, thank you guys. Likes, comments, shares, subscribes. I've noticed the subscription count has gone up a little bit. It's kind of weird to me because I haven't been recording. So thank you everybody. Please drop comments if you have questions, comments, things you want to hear about. I don't know what to even talk about anymore. So today what I was going to talk about was Aquarius, and we do not have normal hobbies, and I want to kind of let everybody know that, because what I did was I was like, what did I do as a child? What were my hobbies as a child? And writing them down, this is only some of them, it's not even all of them, but writing it down now, I was not a normal kid. And I don't know, y'all can chime in, Aquarians chime in. I don't know if you guys had the same kind of, we're very eclectic in that we like to dabble in multiple things and just try it just to say that we have, or just to see, if we like something. So I made a whole list of it. And the reason why I made the list is because Libra and I were talking. And so Libra's a special forces, ex-special forces. And he swore to God, he thought I was a secret agent. He's like, how do you have knowledge over all this stuff? How do you have knowledge of everything that I'm talking about? And Aquarius can be a little bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. But what I find with Aquarians is typically we're good at most things that we do. We're just good at it. And that's not in a cocky way. You give us a project, we're typically going to excel in it. And that's because we understand processes more than most signs, because we are towards the end of the zodiac. So I wanted to go into my hobbies. Again, y'all chime in on weird hobbies that you have, because that's really interesting to me. And I like when you guys, when we kind of collaborate more than me just talking, because I hate just talking to the camera all the time. It's kind of annoying. So, all right, so I'm going to do 0 to 18. My hobbies as a child. Definitely was not a normal kid. So when I was 3, I had a big sleepwalking problem. So it started when I was 3. It still continues into adulthood. The last time that I have, or somebody has recollection of me doing it, I was about 28. So apparently it's still there. That's essentially a failed astral projection. Now, what I used to do when I was 3 was they used to call me the magician, because somehow we had padlocks on the door, and somehow when I was 3, I would get out of the house and I'd go wander the bay, and I'd be knocking on people's doors late at night. And then my mom would get a phone call or something like that. And she's like, I don't understand how she got out. So what that did later in life is the sleepwalking really, really interested me into getting into astral projection, astrology, things like that. So by the time I was 8, I was already into astrology, which, y'all, people used to make fun of me for being into astrology, this, that, or the other. Oh, Megan and her signs. And, the first thing I'd ask people at a very, very young age is, what is your sign? And they used to make fun of me. And I'm like, bitch, now I make money doing that. But so I got into astrology. I got my first astro deck when I was 8. And then I also got into astral projection books and psychic ability books, God books, energetic books, just not normal for somebody that young, in my opinion. I don't know any 8-year-old, especially now, that's even into any of that stuff. So I got into that. I also got into volunteering. So when I was about 9 or 10, I told my mom I wanted to volunteer. Okay, so I wanted to volunteer, and she's like, well, what do you want to do? I always had an affinity for animals. My mom wouldn't let us like watch TV or anything during the week unless it was something educational. So I grew up on freaking Animal Planet, National Geographic. I would sit for hours and just watch everything about animals, about the planet. I learned so much because of that. So I am grateful for that, but I really just was drawn to animals. So what I decided to do is I just brought it up to my mom, and like, it's so weird too, because my family is not, they're not the volunteer-y type. Like, I feel like they would volunteer to make themselves look good. Like, I wanted to volunteer because I wanted to like make a difference. And to me, being that young and that kind of like, I don't want to be so humble and say self-aware, but to me, it was more like, I just want to make a difference. I feel for animals, whatever. I started volunteering with animals, mostly with cats. I always felt bad for cats because most people want dogs. So I ended up volunteering for a local shelter. They're actually still active here. And for me, that was really, for a kid, kind of like a weird thing to, essentially I wanted to be around animals too. So coming into that, I had a friend, so it was my mom's friend, and it's so funny because all my mom's friends always, not preferred talking to me, but I always had a really good connection at a young age with older people. So my mom's friends would just sit there and they would ramble to me and we'd talk, and you know, at a very young age, and they just really enjoyed speaking with me and stuff like that. One of her friends, I don't know if you guys know who Jack Hanna is. So Jack Hanna is a extremely well-known wildlife expert. I don't know if he's a zoologist, because that's what I wanted to go for. I can't remember. But my mom's friend actually worked with him. So we had experience. We'd go over to her house. We'd visit in California. And she had, her whole backyard was essentially wild animals. So, and there were different enclosures and stuff too. So it wasn't like it was just like a 2-acre backyard. Like, it was enclosures. We had a baby wallaby that we were feeding throughout the night, things like that. We'd wake up and then we'd feed kinkajous. We'd get eggs from the chickens. We feed Arctic foxes. My first big scratch I got on my hand was from a freaking serval, which is an African cat. So I kind of gravitated towards that. So I kept continuing. Everybody swore to God I was going to be a vet or something, because when I'd go to the library, I'd pursue getting books that were about all kinds of animals, dogs, cats, wild animals, things like that. So I just had like a plethora of knowledge. And so in doing so, our friend, we'll call her Jay, she came back into town one time and she goes, oh yeah, just like, we were going to meet at this restaurant that was right next to her hotel room because she was going to do a show with Jack. So we ended up meeting up with her, and my mom was like, okay, well, just run up to the room and tell her that we're here. And I'm like, okay. News. Stop it. You guys. Sorry, the dogs are crazy. So I ended up going up to the room, and all I hear in the hotel room is burp, 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 burp. And I'm like, okay, I know you're here for a show. So she would have everything, all the kennels and stuff. She had to stay in really nice hotels, but ones that would allow animals, but these were exotic animals. So she just had crate after crate after crate. They're all covered with blankets so that the animals are calm so she could go to dinner. And she's like, oh yeah, you want to know like what's in the bathroom right now? And I was like, yeah. So I opened the bathroom door. I'm shitting you guys not. Crocodiles, baby crocodiles, using for the show the next day. And there's probably like 12 of them, like at least a dozen of them, just baby crocodiles all in there. And she's like, you want to hold one? And I was like, yeah. So she really, really wanted me to intern with her. And so I continued to just study. And I went for extra training for veterinary too. So also during that time, random other things that I had happen to me. I took piano. So I've always been interested in music. Music I have a kind of like love-hate relationship with, because I found when I took piano, I didn't really take to it. Now I wish I really stuck with it. But at that same time, I was also taking piano. And I was also, it's so funny, and I feel like this is where I get my taste from. I was growing up kind of with Koreans. So I grew up going to Korean church with that palette, I guess. So for me, culture is very interesting, and I love all of them. I grew up with Koreans and Hispanics, so I tend to like fit in really well, but that's only because I went to Korean church. I ended up learning a lot of Korean. So I also got into, when I was about 12 to 13, working out. I was really into working out and nutrition, which for a kid that young is kind of weird. I would go spend the night with my friends, and we were really, really focused on nutrition. I had friends that I'd go spend the night. So I had one that I'd go spend the night at, and we'd go hiking. And so that would be on Friday nights. I'd go hiking on Friday nights with her. We'd come back and have pizza, of course, because like, let's blow all the work that we just did. And then on Saturdays, I'd go stay with my other friend, Noobs. I'd go stay with my other friend, and we'd go to the gym at the country club the next morning. So it was really a weird focus. Like, we really enjoyed the gym and working out. One was Aquarius, one was Capricorn, but they were like my best friends. And at an early age, I got really into nutrition for some reason. I always just had this innate like need to eat healthy and stuff like that. So, and I don't think it really came from my mom. Like, we grew up Mediterranean, but again. So a little bit after that, I told my mom on Christmas, and this was when I was 13 or 14, that I wanted to get into horseback riding because I'd always wanted to do horseback riding. I was obsessed with horses. And even my college, when I started college, I went for equine science, and I didn't get into I got into the university I wanted to go to, but they really, really wanted me. And I'm like, you don't have an equine program. So I ended up not going to this huge university because a community college had equine science, and that was the only one I could find. So I got really into wanting to horseback ride and stuff like that. So it was really cool because I was horseback riding. She got me lessons for Christmas, and then I was horseback riding, and then she couldn't afford to keep paying for my classes. So y'all, bitch is a hustler, okay? Like, I basically did horseback riding, and then once my mom couldn't pay for the classes anymore, I was always nannying, I was always babysitting, I always had money. I don't know if you guys have experience with you remember the little Tootsie Roll canisters that they had, the Tootsie Rolls, and then there was a thing to keep change? Mine was stacked with cash. So my parents would always come to me like right before payday and say, hey, Megan, can we borrow 20 bucks, whatever, just to pick up dinner for the night or whatever. So I ended up funding my own horseback riding. And because I learned so quick, I ended up not having to pay for those anymore, because then my teacher was like, hey, if I pick you up every Saturday, can you help teach the younger kids and saddle up for them and stuff like that? So I ended up getting lessons for free. And then the younger kids would come through, and I'd stay there for like 4 hours every Saturday. Also around that time too, I decided to get cake decorator certified, which is completely random. So I did cake decorating. Like, that's just weird to talk about. Like, whenever I talk to anybody, they literally reach out to me and they're like, how do you know so much about so much? And I'm like, because cake decorating is a thing I haven't done before. And I think most Aquariuses are kind of like that. So I got cake certified just because it was a thing to do that I hadn't done. In between that and nannying, I got really, really into, especially in high school, I got into guitar. So I started playing bass, which most girls don't play, but my hands are freaking huge, you guys. So I started playing guitar. I also started paying for that myself because I had my first job at that time. And my first job, I loved working, you guys. Like, the day I turned 16, I got a job. Like, that day, I'm not kidding. And I was making like, because when you're 16, y'all, you get paid like $125 a week to work part-time. It's really freaking stupid, but like, you're like, oh my God, $125? What could I do with all that? You know, and you feel really independent. So I got really into guitar. I also got really into theater. So simultaneously, you have to realize an Aquarius is crazy, okay? So simultaneously, it was guitar lessons, it was school, I was also studying all my medical classes at the same time. I was also in theater, but I wasn't just in drama in school. I was in company theater. So a lot of performance background, a lot of music background, just random hobbies that I've had. And then I also was dabbling at that time, 14, 15, I was also studying a lot of religion. So when people get on here and they're like stupid and they're like, oh, well, and please don't throw Bible verses at me and shit like that. Like if you don't agree with it, don't agree with it. Don't hang out on the channel. But I started doing research on religions when I was 14. I was lucky enough that my family was they were not very religious at all, and I always had like a higher like spiritual interest. So I ended up studying Christianity, all kinds of things. I decided to get myself baptized, which is kind of weird because you have to do a lot of studying for that. So I'm trying to figure out how I crammed all this in, but I got myself baptized, and quickly thereafter I saw kind of all the fallacies in a lot of it. So I started studying even more, because once something's not working, we understand how systems work. And once something wasn't kind of working for me, and I was kind of seeing a lot of the hypocrisy and stuff in within the church and stuff like that, I ended up leaving. So I also got into 15 or 16 into archery. So yes, I studied archery. I had a freaking bow, okay, and I started studying archery. I got really into it. That was my other Christmas present. And y'all, Aquariuses, we're not freaking normal, okay? We don't want, my whole family was all about like the sparkly and the materialistic, and then it would come down to me and I'd say, what do you want for Christmas, Megan? And I'd be like, socks. I need socks because I work out a lot. And they'd be like, no, seriously, like, what do you really want? And I'm like, socks. Like, yeah, that Christmas I wanted a bow. So I ended up getting really into archery. I was also a very, very avid reader. I think I read more than, I used to get in trouble so much, you guys, in school when it came to reading. I would not be paying attention in class, and then the teacher would call on me and say, hey Megan, you know, what's the answer to such and such? And for some reason she'd have to, like, I remember one teacher specifically, she'd get really mad at me, and then she'd holler out at me, and I'd be like, what? She'd be like, what's the answer? And I'd be like, oh, the answer is like this, that, or the other. And she's like, okay. But she'd still take my freaking books away. So I was an avid reader. I prefer fantasy books because I prefer that over reality. That's my little escapism thing. I don't know if that's an Aquarius thing. Y'all can chime in on what your weird ones are. I was also into PC gaming. So when I meet guys, this is a funny thing, is I was big PC gamer, like huge PC gamer. I would be locked in my room forever, listening to music, headphones on, PC gaming. And it's so funny when I meet guys because they're like, how do you know what I'm talking about? I'm like, because I was a gamer, dude. Like, big on PC gaming, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I was really big with theater, and then I would do random shit. Like, I decided to get scuba certified. So I live in Phoenix. Why are you getting scuba certified? So yeah, I did all the courses, all the classes. I had to go to Mexico to get certified for scuba. And it was so funny because they kept saying how natural I was. And the weird part about that was, I have a background, so I was always taking medical classes. So when somebody had like their senior year, right? The whole cool draw to senior year is that you're not having to do as many classes anymore, and you get like a half day. So mine was not like that. I was basically at the same time, I was training, I was doing clinicals. So I had to be up at 5 in the morning. No, I had to be work by 6. Yeah, so I was up at 5. I had to be at clinicals. I'd stay at clinicals for 3 hours. Then I'd go to school. Then I'd have to cram for some tests because we had literally, if you're doing those med classes in high school, you have a quiz every single day. So I'd have to cram on the way to school. Then after school, because I was an overachiever, I took my full day's worth of classes. I would get home at 4 and try to study or try to take a nap, and I'd maybe lay down for like 30 minutes, and then I was up, I was at my job, which at the time was at a restaurant, and then I wouldn't get home till like 10 or 11, and then try to get homework done and try to cram, and then I'd be up again. So I never got any sleep, and it was so funny because I don't understand how people could ever see somebody like that as lazy when I kind of like lay out what my history was from 0 to 18. Like, it's kind of insane. So sorry this is a little bit longer of a video. Again, I don't normally do like 20-minuters. I'm really sorry. I'll be doing a reading too. I'm just trying out this new freaking iPhone 11. We'll see how quick it uploads. But thank you. Likes, comments, shares, subscribes. Anybody, if you want to hear about something, please put it on here. If you want it to be funny, if you want it not to be about Aquarius, if you want it to be about spirituality or anything like that, please chime in. I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday, and I hope that everybody's being prosperous and abundant. I know I've had some kind of like weird things happen recently, and it seems like a lot of people are getting stressed out during the holidays, which I totally understand. So I'm there with you. So thanks so much, guys, and we'll talk soon. Bye.